Have you ever wanted to know how to make stuffed pasta, particularly ravioli? They can be square, they can be round. Well, I'm going to show you how to make them today, so stay tuned. We are going to stuff them with some beautiful kabocha squash and walnuts. It is a delicious filling that varies from region to region in Italy. Some regions, like Lombardia, even use amaretti biscuits crushed up in there, which is absolutely delicious, gives you a nice sweet flavor. So we're going to take this slightly more savory, but we're going to serve it with a lovely brown butter sauce and some sage, of course. I'll show you how to make it, so stay tuned. You can make a ton of these, you can freeze them, so they're great to have for whenever you need some fresh pasta in a pinch. Okay, this one's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go.
So we're going to start by cutting a kabocha squash in half. If you can't get these, use butternut squash, but I highly recommend these. They go by Japanese winter squash as well. Beautiful color, super sweet. Go down the back of the squash with a heavy knife, take your time, cut it in stages, and you'll be able to crack it in half. Now you're going to scoop out the seeds just like this. You can do other things with these like dry them out, but we're not going to use them today. And then we're going to cut the pumpkin into chunks like this. Put this into a bowl, preferably one a little bit bigger than this, but I think the other one was occupied. Add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, a nice generous seasoning of salt and pepper. And then we're going to mix that through and we're going to put in some sage, about maybe 3 tablespoons. Put that on a lined baking sheet. Make sure everything is kind of skin side down. And then we're going to generously grate over some nutmeg. Add about a glass of water, about 50 mils. Double cover this with some foil and we're going to roast this in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on the size of the pumpkin. I had this in for just over an hour, I think, and what this does is steam the pumpkin. You know when it's done, it's going to be super soft, it's not going to have too much color, and you should be able to put your knife through like that with ease. Now, set that aside to cool down, and we're going to focus on a few different elements for this filling. Get a medium shallot, well actually it looks more of a large one. Thinly slice this, don't worry if it's not perfect because we're going to sweat this down in a minute. Okay, now we're going to set that aside and we're going to scoop out the flesh of the pumpkin. It should have cooled down enough for you to manage. Make sure you put in all those sage bits as well. We're going to discard the skin and just loosely break up your pumpkin flesh. Now we're going to sweat down the shallots in a nice bit of extra virgin olive oil on a low heat, a couple of tablespoons. We don't want to color the shallots here, we just want to sweat them down gently. Now, after a couple of minutes, we're going to add our pumpkin flesh. Now we're going to cook this for about 3 or 4 minutes on a low heat. We don't want to go too aggressive and ruin the beautiful color that we have. We're just trying to get a bit of the residual moisture out at this stage. Add a nice bit of white pepper, mix that through, and then we're going to transfer this to a blender and we're going to give this a lovely blitz up once it's thickened up like that. Now we're going to puree this till it's nice and smooth. I think I let this run for about 3, maybe 5 minutes, scraping down the sides from time to time. Now to get all the moisture out, we're going to hang this overnight in a bit of muslin cloth. If you don't want to do this stage, you're going to have to cook it out on the pan for about 20-30 minutes, but I highly recommend doing this. If you don't have muslin, you could use a thin J cloth or anything like that. Okay, so you're just going to bring it together. You can see how much moisture is coming out of this. Twist it, get yourself some butcher's twine, wrap it round a couple of times, make yourself a nice knot so it holds into place, and leave enough overhang so that you can tie it to a shelf or something in your fridge. I think I tied it to one of the middle column shelves, so you just have to kind of hook it down wherever you've got a hook. You could also hook it to the underside of a shelf as well, so get creative, make sure the string is long enough. Okay, after 24 hours, cut the string, open up the muslin, and you can see how much it's dried. You just have this beautiful ball of this pumpkin filling that's gorgeous, completely dried out, and absolutely delicious and firm to the touch like this. Now we're going to blitz up 40 grams of walnuts, just pulse them. We don't want them ultra fine, a little bit of texture. Don't get the pieces too big or they will rip through the pasta when we are rolling it. Now put that over your pumpkin mixture, and then we're going to add in 1 large egg. And at this stage, a lovely grating of nutmeg again, just to reinforce that flavor. Mix that through, ideally get a bigger bowl, don't be a donut like me. Put in a tablespoon of white breadcrumbs, give that a generous mixing through, a nice pinch of salt and pepper. I like to use white pepper in this dish because I think it works better. Mix that round, and then we're going to add in 3 tablespoons, rather large tablespoons, of grated aged Parmesan cheese. It works beautiful in this recipe. Okay, mix that through, have a little taste, and you should be good to go with your seasonings. Put this into a piping bag, and we're going to leave this in the fridge overnight. If you don't have a piping bag, you can use a Ziploc or anything like that. I like to put a little clip on the end because it just stops it from coming out the other side. I'll put that in the fridge until later. Now, for our pasta, I've got a recipe on the website, but it's basically 500 grams of type 00 flour, 3 large eggs, 2 yolks, and a pinch of salt. Now you take your pasta sheet rolled to number 6 like this on the Mercato Atlas 150. Fold the sheet in half and then you'll know exactly the halfway point. Flip that open, cut it in half and you've got 2 sheets to work with. Now we're going to use a 2-inch fluted cookie cutter, go around and make some light indentations in the pasta. Do not go all the way through. This is going to be a marker for where you're going to pipe in your ravioli filling. Make sure you pipe it in the middle. About a teaspoon and a half should do it. Don't overfill it. Then you're going to moisten the edges of the indentations of that original cookie cutter. Lay over your other sheet. And then we're going to knock out the air and seal these in place. I like to use an inverted round pastry cutter, about 1.5 inches. That helps you lock in the shape, and then also it makes it way easier when you want to knock the air out, just like I'm doing there. Work from one side to the other, it helps. Then you get your original cookie cutter and stamp out your raviolis. Don't throw away that trim, we're going to save it. Now pinch the edges lightly to make sure they're sealed, and then put them on a tray either with some semolina, but I couldn't find any, or flour or grease-proof paper. You can also make raviolis with a round cutter if you don't have a fluted one. The exact same principle, just add a bit more filling. Now I've got a full video breakdown on how to make pasta and how to roll different shapes. So I'll link that at the end of the video, or you can get it on the website. Make sure you watch it for a full tutorial. You can also do square, like kind of rectangle shape, the classic ones. Just follow the same principles and it should all work. This is a great way to make a bunch and have them stored in your freezer. Just store them under a cloth that is damp until you need them. Now we're going to melt 40 grams of unsalted butter and we're going to make our brown butter sauce. Now the trick with this is just get it in your pan, let it melt and slowly brown it. Keep swirling it round. Don't go too aggressive, otherwise you're going to burn your butter. When the butter's a nice golden brown, then add in about 3 tablespoons of sage leaves. Now we've got a stock pot of water on there which has been nicely salted, and we're going to add our ravioli into this. Don't put them in all at once, so you're going to have a volcano effect. So just put in a couple at a time, and then we're going to put the lid on, bring that up to the boil. It's going to cook for no more than about 2 minutes. Now the butter's getting brown, adding in a nice squeeze of lemon juice. And at this stage, I'm going to just add the raviolis one by one. They've been in for just under 2 minutes, so we don't want to overcook them. They cook really quick. Make sure you shake the pan when you're putting the raviolis in, and then we're going to emulsify this sauce with the pasta. We're just going to give it a few little tosses, and it's going to coat the lovely ravioli. Add a nice bit of pepper, a nice seasoning of salt. Give that a few more mixes around, and you can see how nice and glossy your pasta is. Now we're going to plate this up however you like. I'm going to go for a nice little round here. And do not waste all that lovely butter in the pan. We're going to spoon that all over with those gorgeous sage leaves. And you have a gorgeous pumpkin walnut ravioli with a sage brown butter sauce. A absolutely banging lunch. Trust me, my friends.
And there we have it, my friends. Look at this beautiful ravioli with our kabocha squash, some walnuts, made with love, because you need a good hug in weather like this, with a beautiful brown butter sauce and some sage. Ooh, cannot wait to get into these. The good thing with these, you can make a batch of them, freeze them. So whenever you feel like it, pour some out the freezer, boom, you're off to the races. Right, let's get into these. A nice little filling you can see inside of that one. Ooh. Cheers. That is banging. That is so nice. With that squash, and pasta's cooked perfectly. Lovely little bite to it. You get the crunch of the walnuts, but you just get this sweetness from that squash. Kabocha squash is so freaking tasty. You get such a nice sweetness from it. And then you got that lovely nutmeg running through. And then you pair it with that butter sauce. Man, oh man, with the sage and lemon. Woo, bring on the cold winter months, because this is a banger. Make them as big or as small as you'd like. And you can tell I like this because I'm not going to stop eating it. Woo. Cheers. That is so good. So do me a favor, if you like this and content like this, please like, comment and subscribe so we can grow this channel. I appreciate all of you that have subscribed so far. Whew, this is going to be so tasty to eat. Right, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.